What's up, everybody? Welcome to the View from Jamestown podcast edition. This is episode 84, and this morning we have two special guests here with us. I think one of our more popular outside podcast guests, which is exciting, from Perstorp. So we have Todd Jones and Martin Hansson. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Nice to have you guys here.
Thanks. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for coordinating the white shirts. Really, will help our marketing efforts here. It looks nice and concise. But yeah, glad to have you guys here at the office. Glad to have some outside guests here in person in a post-COVID world. We had a lot of digital guests and things like that, so it's nice having you guys here in the offices with us.
Likewise.
Yep. I guess just to kick things off, it'd be great to hear a little bit more about your guys' roles with Perstorp, as well as get into some of the company backgrounds for anyone who may not be familiar with. So I'll let you guys hash out who'd like to jump into it first. But an introduction on you guys both would be great.
All right. So I'm Martin Hansson, business manager for Plasticizers globally with Perstorp. Been with Perstorp for 3 years and been some 20-25 years in the chemicals industry and commercial roles before. We're a global organization. I'm based in Sweden, where the headquarters are.
Yeah, I'm Todd Jones. I've been with Perstorp 26 years, so I'm a short timer. I'm based out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I've had a variety of roles. Right now, I'm a global key account director and regional sales manager. And I guess I've been active with TCC since 2016, I would think, selling mostly plasticizers with you.
And for anyone who's not familiar with, obviously, I know Perstorp, a very large organization with a lot of different divisions and business units and things like that. We'd love to hear a bit about Perstorp in general as a company, as well as obviously the business units that are specific to the business we do together and what might be relevant for those listening.
Sure. So Perstorp as such is a Swedish company. As I said, we were founded around 141 years ago, so quite some while ago. We evolved from being a very local company in the plastics industry, making innovative plastics, and then into a global specialty chemicals company that we did over quite a few decades. So let's say right now we have quite a big global reach with a plethora of various business functions. So outside the plastics, we would say we evolved into resins and coatings, engineering fluids, and the animal nutrition markets as well. I would say that the plasticizer focus that we have is in Americas and Europe, and I would say that in general we cover the most of the major vinyl applications with the plasticizers. I don't know if you want to fill in there, Todd, on something.
Yeah, I don't have a ton to add. You did mention the focus segments. Engineered fluids is one. A lot of growth in that area. You're talking aviation, refrigeration. A lot of that's driven by mega trends. And then a very mature segment, resins and coatings. That was really, if you take my history of over a couple decades, I spent all of my time in resins and coatings 20 years ago. Now it's a focused area, but certainly I've branched out, had to learn the plasticizer business a few years ago. I even dipped my toes into ag and other what we call complementary products.
Megatrends, I like that word. I'm gonna have to put that in big letters or something. I like that. Do you come up with that, or is that a Perstorp company word? Megatrends, like, is that?
It's in our company presentation.
Yeah,
yeah,
I like
it
that.
is.
I like that. Obviously, I've been here 6 years, so I guess pretty much right in the beginning of. I think I started in 2017, so I've seen the relationship grow and the business grow and whatnot, which has been great. Yeah, I'm sure you get this question a lot, and it's probably quite a complex question to answer, but obviously we're sitting here right about mid-November, so we're reflecting back on how the year has been. Seems like maybe the tale of two halves of the years, with the first half of 2022 looking kind of drastically different than the second half of 2022. But I'm sure you're starting to get a lot of questions and planning both internally and externally for next year. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about demand and certain applications being weaker or stronger than others. People throwing around the recession word, whether we're already in a recession or heading towards a recession. But I guess in general, kind of how has business in general been, and what are you starting to talk to customers and both internally and externally for what the outlook for next year is?
I think Martin and I have spent some windshield time already this week, and we've discussed this. One common thread when we're discussing it is the lack of visibility into next year. And part of that is that we have so many different segments. So then you try to put your finger on, are people destocking, restocking, and what is the actual real demand? And it varies. We've got some segments where people have been short product for 2 years and are simply trying to rebuild inventory. They're still in supply security mode. We've got other segments where people are more comfortable with supply and are willing to run their inventories lower. So I think we're trying to make a lot of customer contact and really get a feel for, and I just said it, the real demand.
Yep. And I guess that's a interesting question. Obviously, we're coming out of a 2, 3, 4 year period of people buying all the raw materials they get their hands on, tight supply coupled with demand being crazy during COVID and low interest rates and all that good stuff, and kind of back in that pivot where you got to figure out, like you said, what the actual demand is, what is it, demand under normal circumstances if people can get mostly whatever they want, and how higher interest rates and things like that factor into it. It's quite the equation. Sounds like you guys are trying to put the pieces together for.
And I think Martin might be able to touch on this a little bit. Some of these trends, Europe might be 2 or 3 months in advance of what we're feeling. Clearly, they felt the energy impact. For us, that started back in the spring. We've been a little bit insulated from that in North America. And I don't know if you have a feel for a more global perspective than I offer.
Yeah, well, from a European perspective and let's say the natural gas pricing and the availability of natural gas in Europe, that's been an overarching issue during the whole year. It started off quite as a difficult theme, a difficult topic in the beginning of the year, where a lot of sentiment in the market was that, well, we're going to have supply shortages of natural gas, and then ultimately the gas prices, they skyrocketed. What we've seen in the last few months is a return back to more normal levels, I would say, in natural gas, and that comes hand in hand with the warm weather in Europe. We've seen it here, I heard as well, in this part of the States. But also we have seen quite filled up full inventory levels of natural gas in Europe. We also have seen, say, LNG vessels being parked, at different terminals, not being even able to offload their loads due to the inventory levels being that high. So that has then been reflected in the prices as well. But on top of that, now we see that the winter is coming. So again, speaking about visibility, we don't know where this will take us. But in terms of supply, the inventories in Europe are full, right? So supply shortage or not, I think it's a matter of price in the end, in Europe at least.
Yeah, it was kind of an interesting trend, obviously, that as we were coming into fall, there was a lot of concern about energy levels and natural gas supply in Europe, and prices went through the roof. And then it actually gets to where you're approaching cold weather, and all of a sudden energy prices both here and in Europe fall off a cliff, which was an interesting trend. And like we talked about a little while ago, it's interesting that prices are going back up, but gas supply seems long. So
sure,
that'll be an interesting factor to put into place with what that's going to mean for actual energy prices as it comes into the cold months, I suppose. So that's kind of the biggest thing you guys have been spending a lot of time on, just figuring out what demand's going to be next year, putting all these pieces into place and hearing from different customers and segments what things are looking like.
Yeah,
That's right. Yeah.
it really has. And also, we did have some recent news. Petronas' acquisition of Perstorp, it closed in mid-October. Very exciting for us. A lot of unknown, and really our focus has been to keep our minds on the day-to-day business and not to speculate about what this means. But so far, it just seems like a very good fit for us.
Yeah, and it sounds like obviously Perstorp has for quite a while now put the emphasis on sustainability and sustainable products and things like that. So it sounds like that was a big part of the Petronas acquisition.
That's right.
Yeah, it's really part of our fabric right now.
With certain segments, have you seen any differing news on, I know you said certain business units are doing a bit better or worse than others in terms of the outlook for, I guess, on the demand side for next year. Have you seen certain kind of key segments doing better or worse than others exceptionally, or is it all kind of the same trend of just sort of figuring out what the normal demand looks like?
I think, again, from speaking about the European perspective, I'd say the automotive industry has been lagging behind for quite some time due to the chip shortage.
Yep.
And we've seen in the last few months that the chip shortage has eased a little bit. So I think that is going a little bit better, but short term. So on the other end, we have the consumer demand, right, driving the value chains in the automotive industry as well. So, again, speaking about the visibility, it's difficult to judge where that will take us in the end. But I see both, let's say, positive and a bit negative, trends on the automotive industry, but that has been, quite lukewarm over quite some time.
Yeah.
Then I think that the construction industry in general in Europe has been doing well for some time, unusually well. But then after the summer, it has been softening as well. Yeah.
Have you seen any difference in residential versus commercial, or do you sort of just see it as one unit?
Yeah, I think you can look into the details there as well, but it depends on the country level as well in Europe. But in general, the residential has been the whole DIY market has totally stopped, I would say.
Yeah.
Whereas the larger projects are still running until the end of this year. And then when the winter comes, then you have a little bit of a low season again, and then it picks up in the spring.
Sure.
Right. Yeah.
How about here in the U.S.? Have you seen similar things?
Yeah, I mean, if you look into the resins and coatings segment in particular, throughout COVID, you really had the packaging segment and industrial that really propped up the coatings industry. You think about the changes in packaging, all of a sudden people weren't consuming beverages at restaurants. They were using cans and bottles at home. So that really, it was almost the hedge against automotive slowing down. And then DIY, people had time to paint their homes and even hire contractors to do so. So now, you asked a little bit about what's the outlook. If people have already done all these projects, how is it going to look for the coming months?
Sure.
Unknown. Again, lack of visibility.
Getting a little bit more specific on things. So obviously, two of the core products, or really, the biggest historical product we've done together is obviously the DPHP Plasticizer, sold in a variety of different applications here in the U.S.
That's Emoltene 100, Ben.
Thank you.
Okay.
I was just making sure you're going to correct me. That was a test and you passed.
Good.
All about our trade name.
Of course. In general, how has the Emoltene 100 been on the supply side, and what's the outlook for next year? Is that one of the ones that's been caught up and really been a strong product throughout COVID, or how are things on the DPHP specifically?
Well, we had the lengthy turnaround earlier in the year,
Sure.
So that obviously constrained our supply, and that lengthy turnaround came right after the spike in energy costs. So now we're going to get back to assessing, again, the real demand, and quite frankly, we've got to rebuild our customer base.
Sure.
I know you're in the same mode with our product.
Yep. And what are some of the key? So, for anyone that's maybe not familiar with DPHP specifically, what are some of the key end uses that the DPHP goes into?
It's mainly into wires and cables,
Sure.
roofing membranes. Again, speaking about the automotive industry,
Yep.
automotive interiors, and to a certain extent also adhesives and sealants. So those are the key segments for Emoltene 100. Yeah.
And that's one of the, I guess, key examples of kind of looking to see what the demand's going to look like next year as you see what automotive's going to do and construction's going to do, sort of a wait and see and see what the demand looks like for next year in those segments.
Absolutely. So, but you're also right that you said before, looking more into the detailed picture out of construction, what's actually going on at the different sub-segments there.
Sure.
And how they're faring, during next year.
Yeah. And one of the more exciting products we've been working on as a company, and obviously, together, has been the Pevalen, which we've been working together over, I guess, a good couple of years now. Todd, I don't know if you want to maybe introduce Pevalen and the various Pevalen Pro grades, what it is, where it comes from, why it's such a great product. Speaking from if someone's completely unfamiliar with Pevalen as a product, give us the elevator pitch.
Well, the elevator pitch for Pevalen is it is a true non-phthalate plasticizer, and it's a general purpose plasticizer. It shouldn't be considered only for specialty applications. It's for broad use. And one thing about Pevalen that people should remember, we are a producer of phthalate plasticizers, Emoltene 100.
Yeah.
But that doesn't slow us down on developing Pevalen, a non-phthalate alternative. Do you want to speak to the pro grades of probably both products?
Yeah, absolutely. So the pro grades, we started off quite early in Perstorp with launching renewable, or say products based on renewable materials, raw materials, under the let's say the brand Pro Environmental Products. So typically we have the names Pevalen Pro, and then a certain number which then shows the percentage of renewable content. And there we have Pevalen Pro 8, so that is an 8% renewable content, and 36, and then we are moving towards the 100 as well. So a fully renewable, true non-phthalate plasticizer, general purpose plasticizer, which I think would be quite a unique product in the market, quite a unique offering, I would say.
And not only the sustainable piece to it, but obviously from a technical perspective, we've had multiple customers and people look at it and approve it and be excited about it based on it as a very strong technical product. Not just this, obviously the sustainability piece of it is great, but in itself, it's a fantastic product as well, which I'm sure has made your life easier to push for approvals and get companies to approve it.
It is easier. And the one thing to remember about our pro grades, they're achieved through mass balance production.
Sure.
So they don't differ from our current grades of product. So it debunks the argument of, oh, it's pro environment, it's more expensive, lower quality, I'm going to have to sacrifice. There isn't a sacrifice on quality and performance with these products.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So the substance is the same. It is exactly the same chemical molecule in the end. So what we did was that we changed the raw materials, right? So biogas instead of natural gas, and the bioolefins instead of the olefins. So that is a change we do, and we do that within, let's say, the traceable and physical chemical traceability within the system there. But you spoke about the performance parameter as well. Yeah, I think that it gives an incredible softness to PVC, something that when we compare with other plasticizers, general purpose plasticizers, we just haven't seen that with the others. We also this product distinguishes itself by the low volatility and low migration, low water absorption as well, and also an excellent UV stability. So those are the major cornerstones, I would say, about that product. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys, I think you gave it to me. I have a little like flip book type thing that has various sheets of PVC produced that have, you
Yep.
know, one's Pevalen. I think there's a couple others that it compares against, and it really is amazing. That's
You
a
can
great
feel
little,
it, yeah.
that's a great little marketing thing
Yeah.
to actually feel it. You,
Yeah.
you notice the difference. You know, the feel, the bending
Bend.
to it. It's
Yes.
impressive.
Hmm.
I don't know where I got that thing from, but if you guys aren't still making it, you should, because it's a really great way to actually, you know, have a tangible thing that
We
shows
have
the benefits.
we have more. Yeah.
It wasn't me, but and the one thing about those booklets is they're 3 years old,
Yeah.
and still performing.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't think of that from that side.
Hmm.
I play with it on my desk all the time on conference calls, so I'm doing my own little weatherability test too.
All right.
As we sit there. No, two very exciting products. Obviously, the Emoltene 100 DPHP with a much more mature market and bringing the Pevalen to market. You know, I know it's an important product for you guys. I know you're doing things globally to really make Pevalen a focused product and something you guys are pushing to really get approvals for and have used as a general purpose sustainable plasticizer, which is exciting.
Yes.
Definitely. And we didn't share as far as availability and the volumes we produce. We do have a plan in place to increase that, and which is very positive. And it does involve investing in assets of the raw materials that make up the product.
Yeah, very, very exciting. So I know we covered a bit about, you know, what you guys are seeing globally on the demand side and obviously into some of the product specifics. Is there anything else you guys would like to cover or get out there? Or is that kind of a good wrap up for, you know, the end of this year, looking into next year on what you guys are seeing and starting to plan for on the supply and demand side of things?
No, I think the second we make a projection about 2023, the exact opposite will happen. I think I'm cautiously optimistic in the segments that I work in, really hoping for great things, really hoping to gain more traction with TCC. If you take our journey with you back to 2016, I think we said it was really a part of our quick to market strategy to enter a market that we hadn't been in previously. And, you know, through the last 6 years, we've, you know, weathered a lot of market conditions that were challenging and then some great times also. So we'd really like to continue that.
Sure. The exciting times ahead, right?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's you know, from my perspective, been a fantastic partnership and relationship. And, you know, obviously with the product and the supply chain on the Perstorp side and us, you know, handling some of the logistics and supply and all that, you know, on the US side, it's been a great relationship and excited to continue growing it both on the DPHP and the Pevalen products. So I think a lot of exciting times to come.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So you're making the rounds here through the US for the next, you know, when's the last time you've been in the US? Obviously pre-COVID, I'm sure.
Yeah, years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's really brilliant to be here again. Yeah, good to have Todd at the side. It's been a good driver. So
Yeah, he gets to spend, I don't know, 12 hours in a car with me. I mean, you can ask my family. That's always a treat.
You'll be an expert on all Todd Jones jokes.
Absolutely.
He's got the one-liners.
Yeah.
Too bad it wasn't. If you came last week, it'd still be 70 degrees and sunny. You came just in time for apparently winter to start, as it started in the last 36 hours.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, a little bit chillier here.
Yeah.
But any final thoughts, notes?
No, not from my side.
Perfect.
Yep.
Well, thank you guys. Glad you were able to, you know, make a stop here in Jamestown. It was great to see you guys in person. Glad we made some time to have you guys on the podcast. You know, I'm sure we'll obviously share this on all our channels and hope you guys will do the same. I think it's great. You know, there's a lot of people, I'm sure, having a lot of the same questions and thoughts and concerns about next year and what the outlook is. So it's great to get another opinion on it and see what's to come, especially Todd with you know, hyper-focused in the U.S. and looking at things on a global basis. So it's a great perspective to see what's to come and what's happening, what you guys are keeping an eye on. So really appreciate your time. Really good to talk with you guys and hopefully have you on a episode here soon to see how correct some of our predictions were.
All right. Look forward to it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you guys. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks,
All right.
Ben.
Thank you for streaming the View from Jamestown podcast edition.
Like and subscribe for more.